specific program that Junior Achievement is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's I'll say we get like it's more of like a quasi scripted thing where they'll say like, okay, this is the topic, those are the questions we're gonna ask you, and I'll even not like rehearse, but I'll like really high level go over like almost the answers in my head, or especially with our PR team,
right?
Will be
just
like,
to make
okay,
sure that everything's all kosher, squared away. Awesome, man. Let's get this thing rocking, man.
Cool.
Awesome. You ready?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, what's up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Since I got a lot of questions and DMs regarding raising capital, not only private, but so in the nonprofit sector, I thought how Will gone from Junior in Las Vegas and kind of dive deeper into the question necessarily get to, because this guy is an abundance of knowledge, man. No, real serious, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for so much for hopping on, man. I really appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Good to be back, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So actually going through, we were going through a paper here that has these that has an acronym on it that actually I saw it and I was like, man, I want to know what this is about. What is it about, man?
So it's funny. I wrote this in my little notebook here, and this is the same acronym again that I get to just kind of share and for when I volunteer with a high school class for Junior Achievement, and we get to share kind of professionally what we do. First thing I do is write really big on the whiteboard. It's GFPWLOMAATFSOI. And again, full disclosure, really obnoxious.
Let's repeat that again. Let's repeat it.
GFPWLOMAATFSOI. So when I first started my career with the Boy Scouts, still he brought me into his office and he did the same thing. He wrote this on the board and said, Will, if you can do this, and he points to this obnoxious lettering, he goes, you will be successful in the world of fundraising. And I go, what the hell is this? Like, this is just gibberish. And he goes, it is. And again, it's obnoxious, but all it is
bring this a little bit closer. Oh. Just slide it a little bit closer.
There you go.
Yeah, cool.
Again, really obnoxious, but all it is go find people with lots of money and ask them.
Oh, wow.
That's it. Which again, not a crazy trade secret, but
GFPWLMAATFSOI.
If you can do that in fundraising, you'll be successful. It's
so like, go find people with lots of money
and ask them for some.
I forgot the O in there.
So again, that sounds silly and fun, and that's the reason it's stuck in my head. And so after he shared with that kind of funny, obnoxious acronym, he actually broke down a little bit of stats, and I'll share this with you too. I can't remember. It's roughly around this, and I know they continue doing this study where they survey where does, specifically, especially for nonprofits, where does the money come from? So kind of on the first part of this fun acronym, go find people, right?
Yep.
So breaking it down, it's about 83% of all philanthropic donations come from individuals, people. And then the other breakdown is about 14.3% comes from foundations, and then 3% comes from corporations. I think this is maybe 5 to 10 years old data wise, but every few years when they come out, it's roughly the same breakdown. I know corporations, for example, they've gone a little bit up in corporate giving, which is good. But if you look at that and that kind of breakdown, it really still ultimately always comes down to people. And again, I'm not saying anything that's rocket science, but
right.
When you look at an individual, that's just somebody who personally has, a significant amount of capital that might want to invest in your cause or you. And then even on the foundations and corporations side, which then I'll share with junior achievement, we're really, I'll say, appealing to corporations because who doesn't want kids to learn about financial literacy and kids to learn about entrepreneurship. So corporations go, wow, this is an easy. I see the alignment in our company and what we do for people, whether it's a bank or a CPA firm or name your business, the football team, the Raiders. They go, we want to help kids,
Right.
So even at the corporation level and on the foundation level, when you're applying for a grant, which I've also kind of had my hands in before. Even when you're writing stuff on paper, it's still the relationship you have with the grantee, the person that's reading your application. If Tyson, if you're the person that makes that decision, it still makes all the difference if we've got a relationship. So again, not super rocket science, but really, I would say 100% of philanthropic giving comes from people. So.
Yeah, that's actually a really solid point because I think so much of business just in general is totally relationship based.
Yeah.
It's a lot about how you connect with the person, what kind of morals that you have, what you stand for.
Yeah.
And if the person likes that and they enjoy that, it doesn't, I don't think it necessarily matters what the cause is. Obviously the cause has to be like clear, but I don't think it necessarily would matter. But with junior achievements, teaching kids financial literacy and entrepreneurship, that's what this country was built off of.
Yeah. It's I always get to brag that the JA or junior achievement, exactly what you say, getting to teach kids at a really young age from, as I always share, I was in a kindergarten class the other day volunteering, and you got to teach a kindergarten kid the difference between a need and a want. And
so cool.
How, I know so many of my friends that have college educated, they even own businesses, and they still have a blurred line between, do I need this, fill in the blank new iPhone or whatever it is, or do I just want this kind of deal?
Yeah.
And getting to teach that to a kindergartner is so much fun and powerful.
Yeah. Since you have had a lot of experience of fundraising, what have you found has been like the most challenging part to raise money?
The most challenging part to raise money. I think, let's see.
If there is one.
I mentioned this maybe on our last podcast. One of the most challenging parts I've seen is that when people don't feel comfortable, may ask. And that's kind of like in any pitch, right? And I mentioned this last time, but I always like the phrase, the first person to speak loses.
Right. Just like sales.
Yeah. Just like, and then the mentor, he said, in the nonprofit realm and world, it's this, happy, bubbly thing, but he goes, really, as the director of, I'm not the director of junior achievement, but my mentor was saying, as the director of his nonprofit, he goes, this is the best. He goes, this is the best disguised sales job ever.
Yeah.
And that's what we do as a fundraiser, and what executive directors do of nonprofits is we're selling this vision of what we get to do and impact, and we're selling, who we are, kind of deal to the community and to different donors.
Yeah, I would say almost it's in a space of it's a direct sales job. It's a sales job, but raising money for nonprofit, man. Yeah. What else you got on there?
Like I kind of mentioned this again, but I like to just double down on it.
Yeah.
Whenever you, again, really similar to sales, but be specific. I always have this phrase kind of lingering in the back of my head: is a confused mind says no.
Right.
So if you say, hey, I'm starting this nonprofit, we're going to help kids, and then we're also going to help do this, help older folks, and we're going to make them feel better. That's not really a specific thing.
Right.
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 Versus we're going to teach a kid how to be financially independent, or we're going to teach them financial literacy that they get to carry with them for the rest of their lives. That's a more like, I can grab a hold of that, and I see, and even if I want, I can show you a curriculum too, or I could show you, when you invest $1,000 into junior achievement, we can serve X amount of kids in the community.
Mhm.
So be specific, because a confused mind always says no.
Yeah, that is actually one of the questions that came up in my DMs. Is there's a few people that have started nonprofits, or looking to start nonprofits, and how important is it to give specific nonprofits mission, any business's mission,
yeah.
in order to like raise capital?
Really, really important.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about like being able to articulate that vision? Would you find that most of the time the individual that starts the nonprofit would be the best suited for fundraising, or would
No,
you
no.
I love that.
Yeah, 100%, and it can be,
Yeah.
but I've seen, and I don't want to discourage. I've seen a ton of people that are so passionate about planting trees in the park, and they get super warm and fuzzy about the thought of planting a lot of trees, but they might not have the business acumen to say, all right, I got to figure out where to buy the seeds, and I got to figure out what donors to talk to that also, will help fund me to buy more seeds. And they might be a really terrible salesman or saleswoman, and they might not be even though they have the highest passion, they might not be the best person to start a nonprofit. I'll share this as a audio visual, if this makes sense. I got to do this really fun training with my fraternities foundation, and again, really simple, but I showed them a graph, and on the y-axis, going up and down, you had capacity. So, and I guess they can be interchanged, but you had capacity. So
Going up. Right?
Going up,
Mhm.
you had, and in this case, capacity was just a dollar amount, right?
Okay.
And so at the very bottom of that, you got zero to relatively small dollars. At the very of that, got the Bill Gates of the world, and the Warren Buffetts of the world, and Mark Zuckerberg's, the millions and billions of dollars. And in between, you got everything else. On the bottom axis, you've got what I call connection / passion. And that is your connection and passion to the mission of the nonprofit. And your ideal, job as either a director or starting a nonprofit is to find that perfect person that's high on both of those. Because and I'll say, in the fraternity foundation example, I used, Bill Gates. He's got almost unlimited capacity, right?
Right.
But he has no idea. The fraternity I was involved was a Latino fraternity,
Which fraternity?
Sigma Lambda Beta.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah. And so Bill Gates, ton of capacity. At least currently, he has no idea what this fraternity is. I can't think of a direct link between a historical Latino fraternity that Bill Gates has a connection to, right? So really high on the one end, and basically a virtual zero at the other end. And then on the flip side, we said, okay, a freshman who's just crossed into the fraternity, brand new, say 19, 20 years old, and you'd say that kid amped up 10 out of 10 on the connection passion, all the way to the right on this graph. So super passionate, gung ho, I'll do anything for this thing. But also right out of college, virtually zero on the capacity. Can't give a lot, right? Because he doesn't have the doesn't have the means to. So, but then we started kind of digging through and started talking about, okay, some of our alumni. Well, I remember this alumni, he started a hospital and is really engaged in the community. And again, he's alumni. He's been on like a board or two in the community. or on our involved in our fraternity. He's been the president when he was an undergrad. Oh my gosh, this guy scores really high on the capacity side and really high on the connection side, because obviously he's an alumni, cares about the mission. Those are the guys where, again, really simply, you go, let me hang out and put myself in a scenario where I can connect with that individual.
Right.
And that's a really long-winded answer, but it's the person that's the most passionate isn't necessarily always the best person to start a nonprofit or to kind of start the money raising, if that makes sense.
So let's say somebody started a nonprofit and they, with a nonprofit, typically there's not a lot of budget to find somebody, right? So have you had experience with working with maybe individuals, like apprentice type people that are looking to go? Like how would a nonprofit like pay somebody like that? Would it be like on a commission based or?
At least in my experience,
Yeah.
typically I've never experienced a commission-based
Yeah.
nonprofit situation.
Yeah.
And it's almost strange how, perception is reality. Because
Yeah.
if I was a major donor and if I gave $1,000 and I knew that $200 of that $1,000 is going to
Sets
not,
commission.
yeah, exactly, to not the mission, at least in my head.
Yeah.
A lot of people get turned off by
Oh
that.
yeah.
And that's typically why I've never seen a commission structure for kind of starting a nonprofit or even in an established nonprofit.
Yeah.
So if I don't know if that,
Yeah, no,
just my,
it does. It answers that. It's like, okay, that makes sense.
It also puts the fundraiser
Mhm.
can put them in a potential conflict of interest, but like what am I thinking? Like a quasi awkward position, because now or a perceived ungenuine position.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a fundraiser, Tyson, and I go to you and I ask you for $1,000, but I know and that I'm getting paid if you give me or don't give me money.
Yeah.
It's kind of it can be a little different, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So but typically what we'll do in nonprofit world is we'll set up, just like a business. And I always say this, nonprofit, the only between a nonprofit, just a tax status. And a lot of people get lost in the warm fuzzies and they go, nonprofits, this like amazing thing. And you go, we're a business to stay in business.
Yep.
It's a tax status. And instead of selling light bulbs, we're selling an impact that we're, impacting a community, whether it be, through junior achievement or some other fraternal foundation or youth serving organization kind of deal. So,
yeah, because I did some partnerships with Opportunity Village out here.
Yeah.
I used to do some of their export and import, like help with their packaging and assembling piece. And I learned a lot from that because it gave me insight on like what a nonprofit really is, like a profitable, impactful. Let me use that word, impactful nonprofit
it's not,
right.
It's so funny. Even as you like treaded that word, you said profitable, and I saw you like hesitate, like,
Yeah,
that's a bad thing. And a
Yeah.
nonprofit, there's a
Yeah.
profit. And it's I always like to share this with people. Whenever if you look at a nonprofit's balance sheet, ideally and this is the perfect world, which doesn't really exist, but ideally a nonprofit, what we'll do is, doesn't matter what the size is, ideally you'll have the balance sheet come out where it's you're barely just breaking even.
Mhm.
Again, you don't want to lose money, but we raised, $1 million
Mhm.
and we spent $999 or whatever,
Yeah.
on serving kids. And so you'll see that the profit, or we a little extra, we'll call it, that all that is, that's not like, that's not like a bonus that goes to somebody. Typically
Right.
what happens is that surplus, all it does is that gets reinvested back into
Mhm.
the organization
Mhm.
to continue going for next year kind of deal. So,
Yeah, I think regarding nonprofit, the structure and how they have been able to cultivate is so dope because uh for example, like with Opportunity Village, they did have a fundraising side where they
Mhm.
focus mainly on, fundraising. It's very similar to like your
Mhm.
sector, at Junior Achievement, focused on fundraising, connecting with individuals that are willing to give to the cause. And then they had a for-profit side, Opportunity Village business side,
Mhm.
where they provided services for other businesses, B2B,
Mhm.
to generate revenue there. And they offset some of the costs by hiring individuals or employing individuals that uh, um, have autism or
Yeah.
any type of uh, thing like that, and they would hire X amount of individuals, and they would also like kind of get
Yeah.
a kickback for hiring those
Mhm.
individuals. So it would reduce labor costs for the B2B business
Yeah.
and reduce out of pocket costs for the company.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
super
And it
cool
gives those people a chance
to learn.
to
Yeah,
learn, to
yeah,
have
yeah,
purpose. And
yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah. And
yeah.
it's, like I said, it's in a sense, again, going back to nonprofit, which I almost don't like that word nonprofit, because
Mhm.
again, people think you're not making money. It's
Well, they are, man.
well,
Like
yeah.
they're super making money because, like, and I'm not saying like super make like, but they're making enough money to provide employment for yourself, for other individuals in the company. They have benefits,
Mhm.
like, there's a lot of like powerful things when it's a very potent business.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like you said, there's two different pipe sides of that, but they're all, when I look at that business kind of high level part of it, it's just another revenue stream,
Hmm.
like any other business kind of deal.
Hmm.
So I use the Boy Scouts as an example. We'll do a direct, the development side of the house, where we're going in the community and establishing relationships and making direct asks. And then you've got another, the camping side of the house, or the program side, where you're having kids go to camp, and a lot of that cost is subsidized by the development side.
Hmm.
But you got to pay to go to camp, and so that's another revenue, generating structure of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know, well, yeah. So
So what big projects are you guys working on in Junior Achievement, that you're like actively raising capital for?
so and I can't officially say
Oh,
this
okay.
because
Well,
we're
no. Yeah.
we're quite. I'll give a hint to it. We're in
Yeah.
the quiet phase, but I'm trying to say how to say this without saying this. We are going to be really shortly expanding all the services that we get to share
Awesome.
with the community.
Awesome.
So in short, we're going to take Junior Achievement. Right now, we serve about 20,000 kids,
20,000 kids.
which
Holy crap. Across the US?
no. We serve. I believe it's in the millions across the U.S. We
So
serve
20,000 here in
the
Las Vegas, in
here
Nevada.
in
Holy
Nevada, just southern Nevada. Yeah.
holy crap.
So ramp the. We're just gonna ramp the crap out of
Ramp
that
it
up.
up. Yeah.
We're gonna really shortly, once we kind of get in our expanding phase, we'll say we're gonna be able to serve 60,000 kids here in Las
Wow.
Vegas.
So
And
cool.
yeah, so it's an exciting time for Junior Achievement. And
Yeah.
it's I call it, it's kind of um, it's bringing more of our together in the community,
Yeah.
and getting to see this just long-term vision of we're going to be. I love Opportunity Villages is a great example of those. They're one of the first people that I hear about at different functions when you think of the nonprofit landscape.
Hmm.
Opportunity Village, they're doing so much in the community. They're providing jobs and people with purpose,
Hmm.
and they're just multiplying out, and it's amazing what they do. And Junior Achievement, as we kind of get to this expanding phase, we're going to ideally be looked at as that really close partner with our education system here, especially where you go. And I keep hearing this from students, from teachers, from moms and dads, that there's this big gap. We don't teach kids about money.
Yeah.
Like I don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Growing up, man, I didn't know how to balance a checkbook,
Yeah.
or, I think we did like a quick, like few days on like what a check was. And,
You-
but
you-
then that was it.
Yeah. You don't, in school nowadays, you don't really get taught, hey, money's kind of how it's not
Money's
evil.
important.
It's really important.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how educators looked at that and they go, this is kind of, we're bashful. We don't want to talk about money really a lot, even though, again, and I know kids that can solve, upside down quadratic equations, but don't know how to balance a budget, or don't know how to write a check, or don't know what a credit score is.
Yeah.
But they can do those crazy complicated math equations, or they know everything there is to know about history. I love history, but I never learned anything about money. And so it's the coolest thing where junior achievement gets to come in and really not only fulfill that gap with the curriculum that we get to teach kids, but one of our programs, it's the coolest thing to see. It's called JA in a Day. We'll partner with an elementary school, first or kindergarten through fifth grade, and we will assemble that will assemble an army of volunteers, and we straight up take over this whole school for a day, and you get to be the teacher, and you teach our curriculum that's kind of pre-handed out, and it talks about the difference between a need and a want, but you get to, we'll work with some great companies in our community, Ernst & Young, KPMG, and different accounting firms. I'm just naming accounting firms.
Yeah.
But banks, I feel like now I'm going to shout out all our really great partners, PNC and Nevada State Bank, and Bank of Nevada, Bank of America, Lexicon Bank. So we work with a ton of those incredible organizations. And I'm trying to think of what, where you get to come in. I'll Ernst & Young, we just did a Ernst & Young JA in a Day where we took over the school with their employees. So it's not only is it just you're reading from the book, but you've got an accounting executive reading from the book, teaching those kids and giving real life application. Like, hey, I use this in my real life job every single day. And you see you'll see this just endless possibility from a kindergartner go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what accounting does. Like, I didn't know that open, and you'll see kids go, I want, and I know it's a want, but I want a Ferrari. And you'll have an accounting executive go, hey, I've got a Ferrari. This is how I got there, or something, kind of fun like that.
Yeah.
So it's so fun to connect with kids and have them just kind of open their minds, kind of deal. So that's my little, I get it. I'll get you when I get to think about all the,
that's cool
impact and
cool.
Teach financial literacy.
Yeah, that's awesome. When it comes to connecting with potential donors, what type of like program, CRM, either internally, like for you personally, or as a company, do you use anything like a calendar to keep track of like, Robert, is a good point of contact. It's important for me to connect with him. Like, how frequent are you touching this particular person? How, like, is it, you're at the gym, you're just thinking about this person and you just shoot him a text? Like, how do you begin to develop a relationship with a potential donor?
That's a great question. All and to kind of even focus in on that, when I think of, I think of like the opportunity time you've got, right? And so I again kind of think in a grid, and again from philanthropy, this is rough numbers, but a lot of times 90% of your funding will come from the top 10% of your donors, right? And that's the people that, again, connection, capacity. You want to hang out and put your time in that area of that grid that we're talking about. And so once I identify those folks, say our high net worth individuals, or the people that just love and support this, and they put their money where their mouth is. Like, okay, that's a list of my top, say, 10 to 20 people. And then on the CRM side, I call it I quasi cheat. One of my mentors, his
You had some good mentors, man.
I'm way too blessed. I can't believe how
Super good mentors, man.
His term is, if it doesn't happen magically, it usually doesn't happen.
Magically. Can you define that?
So like I'll use an example. Like a donor's birthday. If I know Tyson is a big major donor, and I know that I intentionally want to have a good relationship and increase my relationship with you, I might say, okay, Tyson, as I get to know you, I'm going to write down notes, like in my phone even. And so I know, hey, I know your favorite color is orange, or I know you love dogs. And I might, through either CRM or just through us talking, I might find out when your birthday is, right? And I'll do this a lot of times, is I'll just on my calendar, I'll put, it sounds like really obvious, but I'll put your birthday on my calendar.
Yeah.
When your birthday comes up, I'll call you. And again, we might not hang out, every day or every week, but you get a call from the development guy on your birthday going, oh my gosh, this guy thought about me on my birthday, and he called me. And even if it's a really high level CEO that doesn't have time to answer that call, but the fact that you picked up the phone and you left hey, I just want to hope and wish you have a happy birthday, or some people, sometimes they prefer text messages. You'll text them, hey, I hope you had a great birthday, happy birthday. And that means the world to them. And they go, oh my gosh, this guy, he's really not just after my money. He really cares about me. And you do, you genuinely do.
You genuinely have to. You have to, because you're not, at least in my experience, you're not gonna develop relationships through like fictitious
you
crap.
You gotta be authentic. And some people look at that as, like I said, it's you're cheating. It's, you really do care about those people, and you want them to feel good, because it's this getting people to feel good about you, and getting people to feel good about what you're doing in the community.
Yeah.
And it's so I automatically, and I'll put in there
automatically. I love that.
Hey, it's Tyson's birthday here, or it's your anniversary here, or, you just bought a house. Let me text you to congratulate you, or whatever the thing is, but you can kind of just put that in there if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've identified some individuals that have been looking to raise money and, grow in business in general. And, it's unfortunate because I feel a lot of people, at least in my experience, haven't developed relationships with other people. Like they didn't really care a lot about other people, I've always had this business acumen, and then also just like connection acumen, man. If somebody crosses my mind and I'm driving and they cross my mind, I always been in the habit of just texting them or sending them a voice note immediately. Like, hey, you just crossed my mind. Hope you're doing amazing. Have a good day. No need for a response, I
love that.
And I pop people's birthdays and things like that in my calendar on my personal phone, because it's important for me to develop relationship,
It's I always rank that as that's the number one thing you can do is get really good at it. I always joke that, once you're kind of one of my friends, whether it's on the development side or on the personal side, you're kind of locked in. And I call all my friends on their birthdays, and I call all my donors on it, but they're genuinely part of my kind of circle and friendship kind of deal. So could I share? I wrote down here. Those are some just good kind of intro questions.
I love it.
That I like. It's an easy thing, and it almost sounds corny when you think of like a script or something specific to say, but I think it helps, at least for me. A lot of times before I go into a meeting, I'll have like a note card with like
you always have the note card. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
but it helps guide the conversation a lot of times, and they're really easy, open-ended, low risk questions. It's you're not, you're not necessarily teeing up the $1 million ask, but you can kind of help get guided there with some of those. So
Yeah. So these are top questions to guide a conversation for potential donors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So top questions to guide the conversation automagically. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I'll throw in automatically in there.
Yeah.
So again, people give to people, and it's our job as a development director or a fundraiser, if you're starting a nonprofit, or if you want to partner with a nonprofit and help them raise money. I always say it's our job to connect people to their passion. So the P to the P. So here's the little questions. Can you see yourself getting more involved in something like this? It's an open-ended question, really low risk. If I tell you all about junior achievement and all of the great things that we do for kids, how we're going to be expanding, and there's some really cool, sponsorship opportunities. And I don't even have to say that. I could just say, this is all the stuff that we do for kids when we do a JA in a day program. Can you see yourself getting more involved in this? And it's a really easy, oh my gosh, yeah, that sounds really cool. I want to get more involved in this.
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Do you see yourself getting more deeply involved? That's kind of, and that again, a little different, but just deeper. And again, those are really simple and obvious ones, but just good. How can I best follow up with you? I'm all about and getting the next action item.
That's a good one.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen me and Tyson will do lunch. I'll tell you all about the happy, cool stuff that we do with junior achievement. And they say, Tyson, it was really great, getting to meet you. Really appreciate it. Goodbye. And then we leave, and
it's gone. Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, it was a nice first lunch, but it's kind of like, oh shoot, I didn't get a takeaway from that. So I always like pinch myself and go, hey, how can I best follow up with you?
So important to have a takeaway, or I would call it a CTA, like a call to action, either like a follow-up meeting,
I can't tell you how many, especially on I'll say the more successful people, they appreciate that so much, because they go, oh, thank you. We didn't just do lunch, and we like each other, but it was, you want me to tell you, send me an invoice. That's how I want you to follow up with you, or send me a calendar invite to this next big fundraising event, or it's something specific. So how can I best follow up with you? Another really fun, again, obvious one. Is there anybody else you could see being a part of this? And again, once you ask those questions, the hardest thing, and my job anyway, a lot of times, is just shut up. So I ask that, and I go, can you see anybody else being a part of this? And I just don't say anything.
Yeah.
And you'll, again, with go find people with lots of money. Again, those people with lots of money, they usually hang out with other people with lots of money. And Tyson, you're a multimillionaire, and I ask you, can you see yourself and anybody else getting involved with this? You're going to think of your other really good friend that also owns a yacht.
Yeah.
Or also, has a really cool, somebody else in that level kind of deal. How important is this to you?
Ooh, that's good.
How might this happen?
And
again, that's almost kind of a direct ask of, we want to impact 60,000 kids with this new, insert here kind of deal. Or, we want to insert this many kids, and it takes this amount of dollar level. How might we make this happen? And it might be, you might say, oh, I'll just write the check. That's how we'll make this happen. Or you might say, I got 10 friends and I can ask them for input, or, whatever it might be. And now you 10x your profile, so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
And the last one again is, and this is easy, but it's again, just an open-ended, get people talking. They again, they did not a shocker study, but they did a study on donors and development directors, that a donor is like infinitely more active and engaged and excited when they're doing the talking, right? Because their brain has to process things and think about stuff of what they got to say. So if we're doing a one-on-one ask meeting, it's actually a lot better if I'm just listening, because I'm listening for, I was trying to sell you on this entrepreneurship program, but you actually are really excited about our workforce programs. Maybe I mixed up, even though it's all under junior achievement, maybe I mixed up my target, so to speak. But now that you told me that, I can I'm filling in the blank. We've got a cool junior achievement career fair that's hybrid. We're going to do 2 in-person events. We're going to have it online, open to over 12,000 students for 90 days. Maybe that's your fit instead of this other, objective kind of deal.
Yeah.
So the question to link to that is, what's your, and then I say, insert your cause. So, do you have an entrepreneurship story? What's your entrepreneurship story? Like, would you mind sharing that with me? And Tyson, I would love to hear that. Actually, it's your journey.
Yeah.
But that's such a great question when you ask those like authentic questions.
Yeah.
And you're really listening.
Yeah.
And you go, oh wow, that's, again, it goes into building that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And people just go, oh my gosh, this guy listened to me and he's interested. And, I'm an entrepreneur, and, also happy entrepreneurship month. I don't know if
happy entrepreneur month. Yeah.
November. I didn't know that until just recently, but it's entrepreneurship month.
Yeah.
If you ask an entrepreneur, especially, what's your entrepreneurship story, or tell me a project that you're working on that you're really passionate about. And you just ask that question, and you just be quiet and you just listen. And it's like I said, I've got selfishly the most fun job in the whole wide world, because you get to ask those questions and you get to just
you just get to meet people.
Yeah.
Man. You get to meet cool people.
You get to meet really, really cool, fun, fascinating people.
Yeah.
And so those are, let's see, I think, and the kind of overarching thing of all that is, again, our mission is connect people to their passion, and we want to help enable people to share their stories. Once you do that, it's almost like you don't, you got to ask for money, but it's almost like you don't have to, because people, they want to come to you in a sense. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think ultimately that creates that bond. It creates that connection with that person to work with you. Earlier, like starting this, people work with people that they like.
Yeah.
And they gotta like you.
Yeah.
They gotta like you. You gotta have a clear vision. You gotta have a clear ask. Yeah.
I'll share my last little nugget story.
Yeah.
And this again, it changed a little bit of how I looked at philanthropy. And again, it's, don't kid yourself. It's definitely a sales job when you're out selling in the community and you're selling your cause and yourself and your impact that you do. But it was with a donor from Orange County, and we were doing dinner. And I remember I was a young whippersnapper, just kind of getting into the field of fundraising. And my brain was kind of like, make the ask and get the close. Like that was A to B, period.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sharing with me with a university that his daughter attended, and he went to one of their fundraising functions, and it kind of shifted me a little bit, just the culture difference. He goes, I went to one of their functions, and nobody even asked anybody. It wasn't like, the used car dealer guy coming up saying, hey, do you want to give this? And here's the level. And, he goes, went there. It was really great. And people were asking me those questions. Can you see yourself getting more involved? How important is this to you? How might we make this new building happen? What's your, in this case, it was university. What's your university story? And people were just simply asking those questions. And he shared with me, he goes, that night I was so overcome with gratitude, I couldn't help myself. He gave I believe I shared with me, it was a six-figure gift, and nobody asked him. But it was
Wow.
because of the culture that university had created, that
Hmm.
he just goes, I was so overcome with gratitude and the way people were treating me and asking me genuinely, how can we make this happen? How important is this to you? He goes, I couldn't not give, and it's, again, different, I'll say, nonprofits and philanthropies, you get to different stages of kind of where you're at.
Right.
But I thought that was the epitome of, that's what we should all be aiming for,
Hmm.
where you almost don't have to ask. You're just sharing with people what your impact is. And it's still a specific thing, but it's, oh my gosh, I can't help myself, but I want to support this so much.
Yeah, what I got out of that is ensuring that the individuals that are coming to functions or that you're communicating with have somewhat of an alignment with your general cause, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think, if you're selling, if you have a nonprofit that, I don't know.
Saves koalas.
Yeah, saves. That's a great example. Saves koalas, right? How many, you got to like koalas, right? For
Yeah.
or animals, and it, you got to find that right avatar, right?
It's in the fun saving koalas example, even
Yeah,
I always go back to people give to people.
true. I
And
love that. I
like,
love that. Yeah,
even if it's
that's true.
koalas, if I'm really passionate about koalas, it's a fun nonprofit. Me and Tyson going to start up
Yeah,
right after this.
koala.com.
Yeah.
Savekoala.com.
E-
.iu.
Even if we're really excited and passionate about koalas, and even if I meet, the owner of the Raiders, or the owner of MGM, or whoever it might be, and I can share that vision and passion, and it's even better, obviously, if I get one of their friends to share that vision and passion, and I say, hey, we're trying to save 10,000 koalas, and or whatever that it's if it's a clear and articulated mission and kind of vision of where we want to take this, and we need $10 million to save all of the koalas. That's a silly example, but
Yeah,
it's still a very, like, here's a specific ask, here's the passion, I'm connecting people to their passion,
yeah,
people give to people,
yeah.
and it's still like, oh my gosh, like,
We
I don't
got,
know anything about koalas, but
but
I
we
gotta
gotta, we
save them
gotta
now.
save
We
them.
gotta save them
We
now.
gotta save these
Yeah.
koalas,
So
man.
it's, yeah, again, that's kind of goofy, but
Yeah,
it's, connecting people with people is
yeah.
is really my main message to everybody out
I
there.
love that. Do you have anything else to share before we kind of like tie it up?
Um,
Yeah. Oh, by the way, while you're thinking that, if you guys haven't seen the previous video with Will and I talking about raising capital and raising, because there's a lot of direct parallels with fundraising and raising private capital. I'll place a link for that down below or somewhere here on the screen.
I'll point to the screen. Sorry, folks. Uh, it's like, sponsor me down here. No.
Koalas.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on here is, it's just the 1/3 rule, and don't get discouraged. Again, similar to sales. Again, roughly, I can't remember when the study came out, but roughly, it's, if you ask 10 people, it breaks down to about a third. So 1/3 will not give you anything, which is okay. 1/3 will give you less than what you ask them, and 1/3 will give you what you ask them. So the in kind of my head, I've been trained. The number one rule is that people give to people. The second rule is people will give what you ask them. So if I ask, and you'd be so surprised if I ask, hey, this is a funny example. Uh, I helped my little brother with a wrestling fundraiser. He's a tremendous coach. He's a dad now, which is amazing. I'm just Google for babies now. But he is one of the wrestling coaches in Arizona for the high school. And he was telling me, he goes, we have trouble fundraising. We're always doing some coupon sale thing and all this other stuff. And I'm like, that sounds so painful. Why don't you just host like a cocktail party, invite the parents, and ask them for money? Go find people lots of money. Easy, and it's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So
it's
fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's good.
That's all we did. We invited the parents. We shared the vision. We had the head coach. He got up, said, "Hey, we're giving kids opportunities to learn about mental health, learn about physical fitness through the sport of wrestling. This is what we teach. We teach grit and determination, and we want you to be a part of our cause. Instead of selling coupons this year, we're just going to ask you all parents to invest in us." And what was it? When on the back end, we helped kind of create, they never had a pledge card, right?
Yeah.
So we created a pledge card with I think at first there was 3 boxes to fill out. I think it was like 250, 500, and 1,000. And one of our coaches, maybe 250 is like a high number. And I go, that's, people give what you ask them. And so he goes, why don't we put, just in case, like a lower entry level gift level, if somebody doesn't feel comfortable giving at that level.
Right.
So we put on like $100 level. And once we gave it, we had the coach and the person making the ask, they said, we want you to give what you can at what you're comfortable. Hopefully, I think we mentioned this $250 level. And nobody in that room gave under that. Everybody said, "Oh, that's what they're asking. That's what
you're gonna get.
That's what you're gonna get," kind of deal. And so, we raised a decent amount of money, and it took a fun cocktail party and an evening out rather than this dragged out coupon sale kind of deal. But
and it's fun. You can connect with people. Yeah. Awesome, man. Man, Will, thank you so much for dropping in again, man.
Thank you for having me, Tyson.
Man, I did we did get a lot of DMs about raising capital, because this thing has been coming up quite a bit, and then I really wanted just to highlight you as a strong fundraiser with Junior Achievement.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Man, what you guys are doing in the community is super dope, man. If you guys want to reach out to Will, place his information down below. Do you have any last words or anything like that?
Just thank you for having me on. I like to toot Junior Achievement's horn. If you want to get involved with us, please reach out. Like I said, we teach over 20,000 kids, and soon we're going to be teaching over 60,000 kids. And our 3 focuses are financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and workforce readiness. So teaching kids about different career paths. And that's our focus. And we love getting to get in front of kids, and we love getting volunteers to get in front of kids and share what they've done. And it's the coolest thing when you see a 4th grader look up at you and go, "Oh my gosh, I could start my own business." Or, "Oh my gosh, there's hope. I can do whatever I want in life." And you get to instill that in those kids. So that's, if you want to get involved, please reach out. And I'd love to, like I said, do lunch or just invite you to check out what we do at Junior Achievement. So yeah.
I love that.
My selfish plug.
I love it, man. Will, thank you so much for hopping on, man. Really, really appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Tyson.
Thanks. Catch you guys later.
Cheers.